What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the ARC Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon, here with my co-host, Matt. Matt, how we doing today?
Bless, man. Glad to do this again. Let's get it going.
Let's go. All right, for those who are new tuning in, this is the Athletes Resilience Center podcast where we talk all things mental performance in sports. And on this episode, we are going to talk about a topic that is important to both Matt and I, and something that I think is very interesting and something that I think anyone can implement into their game or their daily life, and that is the Law of Detachment. So this is referring to the book of the Seven Spiritual Laws of Success, and the Law of Detachment is one that I think is very helpful and beneficial. I think there's been a lot of things going on in the athletic space that has kind of led people towards this concept, and I think ultimately it's going to be something that Matt and I go back and forth about and talk about and can kind of use to help anyone overcome anything that they're kind of in their athletic journey and kind of help guide them mentally in the way that they should be guided. So excited to talk about this and get it started. But I guess I can start with kind of what the law of detachment entails, what it kind of means. And basically, the law of detachment is detaching yourself from the desired outcome that you're looking for. So that's not saying you're taking away like your want, desire, or passion for, you know, playing your sport or doing your thing, but it's removing yourself from the outcome that you're trying to achieve overall, which, whatever it is, at any level, winning your conference championship, being the conference player of the year, being the pitcher of the year, winning the Cy Young Award, whatever that is, detaching yourself away from those perceived, I guess, accolades and accomplishments will ultimately lead to more success. And a big piece of that is because instead of focusing on your outcome and what is at the end of all of this, you're focusing on the here and now and your current process and what you can do every day to get better. And overall, we've talked about it plenty of times about, when you're focusing on goal setting, when you're focusing on anything like that, making your plans for the season, the most important part of any of it is going to be your process and how you operate day to day. So, I guess leaning into this, Matt, I guess from your perspective, kind of seeing a law of detachment or hearing about it, what is your first, I guess, perception of it, or what are your thoughts on just looking at it from like an outsider's view of hearing about it?
Yeah, I think, when you look at it from like an outsider's point of view, you can really kind of narrow it down in essence to be like, when you're doing well, like continue to focus on the things that got you to that point, right? And if you are doing well, there's going to be a lot of things that come with that, right? Outside noise, outside interference, inside noise as well, kind of that self doubt or, lower self confidence. If you're like, man, I can't believe that I'm doing this at a high level, right? And then on the flip side, like even when you haven't gotten the results that you want, maybe you're just dead set focused on the outcome and you're still getting that noise, right? Oh, you're not as good, or oh, you're never going to live up to certain expectations and everything like that. And so, it's a pathway. I think, like obviously most things are, but I think the law of detachment, I think it's a pretty cool concept at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think overall it's just the idea of focusing on your input
Hmm.
and like your effort, your mindset, your preparation, and releasing any sort of attachment that you have to winning, to your stats, to self-praise, to
Yeah.
failure on the flip side. And I think the biggest thing is people when they hear about the law of detachment is like, okay, well, that means I just got to stop caring. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, not at all. That's not what you're saying at all. It's not that you're stop caring. It's that it means you stop clinging to the results that you're looking for. So it's kind of going about your everyday life, your everyday blueprint in a different way where you're just focused on that moment where overall if you do everything that you're supposed to do every single day, right, good things are going to come. And if you get better every day, that's all you can ask, right? Like at the end of your journey, right, we don't know if you're going to be able to win that award or if you're going to win the championship or whatever it is. But every day if you can control what you can control and you kind of let go of what you can't, it really kind of helps breed more success, right? Because you're only focusing on what you can control. You're only focusing on the things that are going to help you get better day by day rather than focus on, oh, here's this end goal that we got to try to achieve, or oh no, if I do this, am I going to fail when I do that? It's like, no, just focus on the action that you're currently doing, and that'll lead to more success in the future.
Yeah, that kind of takes me to like the saying, like being present, like being where your feet are at, right? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
don't worry about what happened yesterday. Don't worry about what's going on tomorrow. Like you said, like be in the moment, be as focused as you can on the here, the now, and then everything kind of takes shape, takes its course, and everything as it's supposed to be, right? And then if you have a chip or an issue with like your process or anything like that, like you still have time to fix it. How can I fix it today so that's better tomorrow? How can I fix it once tomorrow comes here so that's better for the next day and everything like that? How can I continue to get better in these small increments rather than trying to make these overarching like changes and everything like that, where I feel like when you make these big changes, that's really when you're sitting there, you're looking at, okay, where do I want to go? So I need to make all these changes now rather than be like, hey, like I need to go here. So I need to change this first. And then once I got that checked off, okay, I'll change this next thing and kind of break it up and kind of attack it that way.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think, like, with the law of detachment, any sort of attachment that you have to outcomes breeds like the anxiety, right? Like breeds the fear of failure, breeds any performance pressure that you might have. Where when you're detached, it kind of frees your mind a little bit from any sort of pressure or fear, or allowing you to have confidence and have that resilience that we've talked about on here, right? Like think about it in the sense of like a game. If you're pitching and the umpire's making bad calls, right? Like if you're very attached to the outcome that you're trying to achieve, the only thing you're focusing on is like, I need to win this at bat. I need to go 7 innings strong. I need to go the complete game, right? Like every pitch then for you is gonna matter in your brain more and more and more. And it's like, oh crap, I can't do this because the umpire's not helping me out. Or like the rain comes, it's like, oh well, like I had this visual in my head of me doing this and now I can't reach my desired outcome because like the rain is in my way, whatever, right? Detaching from those scenarios and being like, okay, whatever this umpire gives me zone wise, I'm going to work with it and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Like the rain comes, okay, so what? Good. Like let's throw the next pitch and let's get after it. It's really detaching yourself from all of the other variables that are going on, all the other outside factors besides the act of doing what you're actually doing, right? It's like playing as when you did, in the yard with your friends, right? Playing as a kid. Like you're only focused on doing the thing in that very moment. You're not focused on any other bigger things that are going on. It's just we're having fun. We're doing this because we enjoy to do it, right? It's falling in love with the process of actually performing the act rather than chasing desired results or outcomes.
Right. And I think, kind of keep it in line with like, the kind of overarching like sports and everything like that. Like obviously baseball, definitely a perfect example, right? Like you hear everyone say like pitch to pitch, right? Like good, the greatest players make adjustments pitch to pitch, great players make it at bat to at bat. Good players make it like, game to game and everything like
Yeah.
that, right? So, even like football, you have your first series, even maybe your first couple series, like they're scripted, right? You're trying to get a read, you're trying to see like what it looks like. You're not worried about winning the game in that first drive, like in that first moment. Football, you get to a 2 minute drill, you're worried about winning and
Right.
executing as best you can within that 2 minute drill. And every play has its own life, right? Like, you have a 6 second, I forget what the number is on seconds, but I think it's like 6 or 7 seconds, like for football. Like every play is like a 6 or 7 like second life, and then it's done. And then you're on to like the next one and everything like that. Like tennis, like you have the frames, you have the sets and everything like that, right? Like you can't worry about the outcome if you don't win that set or if you don't win that frame or anything like that. And it shows up, naturally in a lot of these different like sports and moments where it's almost like handed to you on the silver platter, like take this slow, like take this moment, execute, and then you get another chance. And then like you're on to the next moment and the next play. And then you get to execute that again. And like I think that is the best way to look at it. But like, obviously us as human beings, like we always want to do the best. We expect the best out of ourselves. We put so
Right.
much into it and we're like, I need to get this end result. We lose sight of like that process as we kind of go throughout like the game, we go throughout the season, we go throughout a week, anything of that nature.
Yeah, no, and you made a really good point about like the 2 minute drill in football, right? Like the last 2 minutes of the game, like where people can get caught up, right? And you've seen it so many times, like younger quarterbacks, guys who haven't probably had historically the best success, right? You see they're more frantic, right? They're like, give me the ball, let's go. Like they're trying to speed things up because what's on their mind? It's we got to win this game, right? Like I need to win. And I don't know if whoever has seen the second season of Quarterbacks that came out on Netflix, Kirk Cousins has a really good like 5 minute conversation, I guess, about his thought process and mindset about this that kind of leads into the law of detachment, where he goes into this discussion of like understanding, okay, I've been here so many times, right? And the only thing that I need to think about is executing this very throw, right? Like executing this play, executing this handoff, whatever it is. Like I need to make sure each and every throw I'm dedicating all of my energy and effort towards, that he's not even thinking about the outcome of winning this at the end. And that has bled over into his family members, where in the show they're even talking about like we've seen him go through this so many times that we know it's like it's second nature to him. He's going to get the ball, he's going to stay calm, he's going to stay present and just focus on executing each and every throw, right? And I think he even says it in this like 5 minute spiel that he has about this, like each throw that he has is independent of another one, where if he throws an incomplete pass, he knows he's going to get right back up and throw another pass. Like he knows what's going on. He's in that moment, and it's just about executing each throw in that moment and not making it bigger than it needs to be. Not thinking, all right, if I throw a first down here, then like I'm going to need to hurry up and we're going to do that. It's like, let's take each step by step. And it kind of has led to an ability to make like comebacks in 2 minute warnings. And you see like any of those quarterbacks that have success, like the Joe Burrows, the Patrick Mahomes, the Tom Brady's, like if you look at their demeanor during that time period, it's very stoic, very calm, very like I am ready for this moment and I'm just ready to execute this play that I'm currently, focused on and trying to pursue.
Yeah, I think to kind of bounce off that, like the independent like aspect of it, I think that's like a really good way of thinking about it as you kind of approach this, right? Like, so it's like you're a young athlete and you're going through a game and like maybe you're 0 for 2, maybe you just had your first at bat and you like struck out, right? Like that at bat is going to be independent of the next at bat, right? And
Right.
that's going to be independent of the next at bat. Like same thing if you're a pitcher, like just because you didn't execute an outside fastball, right, doesn't mean that the next time it gets called, you're not going to be able to execute it just because you didn't execute the first one, right? Like viewing everything as, it's just one drop in the bucket. There's going to be another one. There's going to be another one. Some are going to be good. Some are going to be bad, right? Some are going to be red. Some are going to be blue. Like, it doesn't matter. It's all part of the whole. And if we could focus on piece by piece by piece, we don't have to worry about the outcome at every single waking moment of a game or of our
Yeah.
lives and everything.
Yeah, I think you and I have touched on like the side of like winning and kind of achieving the team desired result. But I think there's also this individualistic aspect of looking for praise or some level of like recognition individually. Because like I was just thinking of the example like a bench player, right? Like before a game, they should go through their whole process and do the things that they want to do. But if they know they're not starting right, then they might be like, you know what, maybe I don't need to warm up as hard as I normally would. Maybe I don't need to do this, right? And that's kind of based in this idea of, okay, well, I'm not recognized as a starter, so I'm not going to put in a starter effort, right?
Sure.
Where if you really are able to detach from that level of praise or recognition, right? It's like, okay, well, if I start or not, I'm going to prepare the same way that I always do, right? I'm going to be ready for the moment when it comes. And same with praise, right? It's like if your coach isn't one that's like a big rah rah, like I'm going to pick you up type of guy, right? Like, and you're looking for that from someone, like that's something too where it's like, well, I'm not getting the praise I want from my players, my coaching staff. I'm going to, you know, not prepare the way that I normally do. Where it's like, no, you should prepare the same every single time because you're kind of trying to you're trying to reach your own standard that you set for yourself rather than trying to appease to get praise from someone else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, to kind of go along with that and like just how, if you're on the bench and like you're going to get a chance to kind of get in the game, like from a baseball aspect, like obviously nine people are going to start the game, right? Like
Right.
if you come off the bench and let's say you're the first person, or if you're a relief pitcher, you're the first person to kind of enter the game. Now there's 10 people that have been in the game, right? Like there's still going to be nine guys in the game at once, but now if there's 10 people total in the game, like that's 10%, right? Like all you have to do to worry about, for getting a team aspect of it is do 10% of what the team needs you to do, right? Like then the next guy enters the game. I'm not good at 1/11 here, but like like the percentage gets smaller and smaller, right? So like it takes more. I don't want to use the word like pressure, but it's not that your job becomes less important. It just makes everyone's job almost become as equally as important the further and further you go because it's still going to be one over whatever. So then the guy number two, the guy number three, they're still one over whatever, one over whatever. So the job is always going to be equal in terms of like what needs to be done, but the percentage of the outcome becomes smaller and smaller the more people that work on it and everything.
Right. And that helps with like the grand scheme of things, not, I guess, giving your results or your, I guess, pressure too much weight. Because
Sure.
again, it's like everyone has to be able to contribute in order to do that, right? Like if I stick to my plan and I'm able to execute the way I want to execute in the moment, then I'm able to help my team, and then the next person can execute and execute and execute, right? And I think that also goes into like detaching yourself from past and future outcomes, right? Like you said, everyone's kind of trying to help put a piece of the pie into the equation, right? Like you're trying to do your part and someone else is trying to do their part. And each of that, like in a baseball game, if you're getting four at bats, if you fail your first at bat, that doesn't mean that your piece is getting removed, right? Like you're going to have three more opportunities to help your team. So being able to detach yourself away from that past failure is ultimately what's going to help you succeed as well. Because like the detachment lets you return to the now and focus on, okay, this at bat, this pitch, whatever it is. Because that's the only moment that you can actually affect and influence, right? Like if you're obsessed with past mistakes or even the future outcomes, it's going to distract you from being fully present or being in the moment, right? So detaching from the past or the future, worrying about, hey, I'm going to get two more at bats. I need to execute in both of those at bats, right? Like not letting that spiral, being able to reset, detach, and focus on the objective at hand is ultimately going to help any of those guys kind of, add to the team and, support them the way that they're supposed to be.
Absolutely. And I think one of the coolest things about like sports is like I feel like everything that's supposed to happen always ends up like happening, right? So like, the person that can get a pinch hit appearance that can come out the bullpen but maybe has higher aspirations, right? But like
Right.
once they get a chance to do that one job that day, right? Like get a pinch hit, right? Get a pinch run, shut down inning, just get one guy out, right? Like the more you can do that well, the more opportunities arise, right? Like if you're a one out guy, maybe you're a two out guy, right? If you're a lefty specialist, maybe you get a chance to see a righty. If you're a pinch hitter, maybe you get a spot start, right? And like the guys that have that capability mentally to kind of go out and get that job done in a limited appearance, they're typically the ones that have more success, I feel like,
Yes.
more often than not, once they get a chance to kind of progress into maybe an everyday role, right? Maybe they're not here in an everyday role, but they're able to do their job in a consistent basis, like within their sample size and everything.
Right. Yeah. So we've kind of gone over like all of the aspects of the law of detachment. Now, I'm going to ask you a question and I'll answer the same question, but can you give an example for you and yourself where a moment in your either athletic career or coaching career where you've been able to kind of implement this and have seen a level of success in terms of you really felt like you did separate yourself from, focusing on outcomes, results, anything like that, and how, something came from that maybe wasn't expected or helped even more than when you were kind of more focused on certain results and outcomes.
Yeah, I'd say my freshman year is probably the biggest moment for me that I was
Mm-hmm.
able to kind of have this. I was a pinch hitter pretty much throughout the course of the year. Wasn't ready to play at all. I think everyone would agree with that. And then, we had a situation on our team where I was forced to have to start. For a do or die playoff game. We had an elimination game coming up, and I'm forced to have to start. And I think for me, like the whole year, I'm pinch hitting and everything like that. And like I think my mental wasn't on just like have a good at bat,
Right.
and you're only going to get maybe 1 to 5 to 8 pitches in that bat, and like you get to focus on every single one. I was more worried about like what that one at bat was going to look like at the end of the day. And so
Of
like
course.
we fast forward all year. I think by the end of the year, I had 35 at bats, and I think during this playoff game, I think that was like maybe at bat number, I don't know, maybe like 22 to 26.
Yeah.
And when I came in, I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on like what I can do right now because I don't know if I'm going to stay in this game.
Right.
So like, it was a little different. It's like when I come into the game, I'm like, I need to make this count. And then when I got the chance to finally like start in a big game, I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'll be in next inning. I don't know if I'm gonna be in, for one at bat, two at bats, three at bats,
Yeah.
four at bats. So it's just like, okay, make the most of it right now. And so like for me, it was able to kind of work in reverse. Like I wasn't able to focus when I had the one moment, but when I had maybe possibly four moments, or I didn't know how many moments I was going to have, I was like able to kind of lock in a little bit better. And I remember in that game, like earlier in the year, I struggled, getting a sac fly, and like my first at bat of the game, I think I punched out. Second at bat of the game, I get a sac fly. So it was like almost like a season's worth of like learning like into that moment. I'm like, all right,
Right.
great. And then like my third at bat, I punch out again. And I'm like, I might not see another at bat. And now I'm having like a bad game. I'm over 2 with 2 Ks, right? So like I'm like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
And then the next at bat, I had guys on base, and I am able to hit a triple, get a couple runs in, just kind of extend our lead and everything like that. But I was just like, wow, okay, like I think I had one triple that year. And it was like that moment.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
one hit on the day. I had 2 Ks, but I had like a couple RBIs. But it was like for me to be able to kind of like flip that mentality that was able to help me have success like on that given day. Next day, I think I go like 0 for 4 or something like that. But it was just like in that moment, it was like, okay, like time is just like, okay, you're given this opportunity. Like, what are you going to be able to do with it? You don't know how many chances you're going to get today. So make the first one count. All right, didn't count. Oh, I get a second opportunity. Okay, make it count. It counts. Third one, make it count. Doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
Fourth one, make it count. Counts, right? So it's just like being able to just kind of like, kind of ride that wave and try to
Right.
be as productive as possible as you go through and everything. But
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree and see like from that perspective where you almost I feel like you almost face the law of detachment in a lot of scenarios when your back is against the wall or when you
sure,
feel the most like cornered, if that makes sense. Like at a certain point, you know, you're so focused on I hope this game is good, I hope I perform well overall, like you said, like I'm looking at the at bat as a whole. I'm not looking at it each pitch, right? Like trying to be fully present. So I feel like, you strike out, sack fly, and it's like, okay, you did your job, but then you strike out again. At a certain point, you're like, you know what? Like, I might as well just try to be as present as I possibly can because what I'm doing isn't working. And like,
right.
I'm just going to make my focus on this exact pitch so I can like try to help myself as much as I possibly can. Like, I feel like it happens so much that's like where most people face, I guess, the detachment is like you're backed up against the wall and it's like, all right, I have no choice but to be the most present and have the most fun that I possibly can in this very moment.
Absolutely. And I think, too, like to your point, like just being so locked into that moment, like even today, we're like, we're 10 years actually removed from that particular game. And like,
Yeah.
I can still remember like certain counts that I got
Yes.
some of those things done
Yeah.
in, and like the
Yeah.
pitches, the pitcher that was on the mound, and like what they tried to set me up with, like what they tried to do. And like, played 3 years after that. I couldn't name you probably like
Right.
my bats against like one pitcher, right? It was
Right.
just like,
Right. Right.
but it was like for that day, it was just so important for me that I
Yeah.
was just like beyond locked in that like even 10 years later, I can remember the pitch and
Yeah. You
like
can
how I
remember it
did it.
all.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Um, I think when I think back to like when I faced it, I think there's a really big example for me and my, I guess, athletic career was, when both of us graduated college, like the whole objective and goal for basically the next year was like sign a contract wherever that is, whether it's indie ball, whether that's affiliate ball, wherever we could play. Like that's what we were looking for. And we went to so many different tryouts with the whole goal and objective being sign that goddamn piece of paper so we can go play professional baseball.
Yeah.
And every day that I'm training, that's what I'm thinking about, right? And every day we're working out, every day we're doing anything, that's the thought that's in your head. I mean, I'm eating meals and that's all you're thinking about. You're like, okay, like I'm going to eat this so like I can hit a certain weight that I think is going to help me get signed, whatever, right? And every tryout, it's like, okay, I'm going to come out of here with the goal of getting signed, right? Like that was the goal. And you know, we talked about this on the podcast and some of the earlier episodes. Like, there were some tryouts that we went to where it's like, oh, well, it looks like we're about to achieve this thing that I'm striving for. Great, great, great. And then it doesn't work out, right? Like, nothing. I'm gonna call you on Monday, no phone call. You know, our roster's full. You're a good arm. Just keep throwing. Maybe next year. Great, great, whatever. And the moment that I felt the law of detachment was when we both were like, you know what, we're done with the tryouts. We're done trying to pursue this, right? We're going to go into coaching and doing our other things, and that's totally fine. When COVID hit and I was playing in a men's league, literally just playing for fun and not even thinking about anything. Like I was throwing and I was throwing some of the best games that I've ever thrown in my life, just men's league wise. And again, doesn't mean anything. I wasn't cared about anything but just throwing a baseball. Like each pitch, I was just like, I'm just going to let this one rip and see what happens, right? And lo and behold, that leads to being able to sign and playing in an independent league that's for the rest of that summer, getting signed out of a men's league. And I really feel like I connected very much with the law of detachment because at that point, like, I had no goal or objective to sign a professional contract at that point. I was done. I was having fun in the men's league, and that was great. Like, that was everything. I'm playing with a lot of my friends that I played with in college, and it was fun, right? Like, there was no other goal or objective besides that. And like, obviously, when I'm pitching, I want to win in the men's league, but like, at the end of the day, if you lose the men's league game, it is what it is, right? Like,
Right.
there was no goal or objective, and the opportunity presented itself, and then it was like, wow, like things really do come when you least expect them to come, and they come at the right moment. Because also, I was able to appreciate that moment of signing and being there, and like, you know, all of my friends came to the game and my parents, and that was really cool. Like, things happen for a reason, and if I wasn't able to detach myself from the situation, I feel like I wouldn't have appreciated it as much. Because it almost, not that it came as a shock, but then it was like, wow, like I'm really playing free and having fun. It was just a whole different mindset, like everything that I did throughout the day wasn't geared towards I'm going to sign a contract, I'm going to sign a contract. Everything throughout the day was like I'm just going to be me and I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing in the moment, which was, really cool to kind of feel and see. Like that was definitely my biggest, I'd say, moment with the law of detachment.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting and crazy because you never really, I don't know, you talk about it all the time and like you feel it in moments, but for it to happen in that, I guess, capacity was kind of really cool to like acknowledge and be like, you know what, this is something that's very, very real and makes a lot of sense at the end of the day. Because again, you're playing loose, you're playing free, and you're really just kind of out there having a blast. You're playing like you did when you were a kid, and that's all you can ask for at the end of the day, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I guess now the next thing is like when we're talking about the law of detachment and kind of utilizing that for your game, like can you think of any ways that someone can kind of implement it into their game, whether it's like, I don't know, in-game adjustments from a coach's perspective, or like any sort of practices that you think they could put into place in order for them to kind of like feel closer to this, the law of detachment, and like implementing it into their game?
Yeah, I think it's a lot harder to sit there and be like, okay, like I'm gonna try to like forget something
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
rather than try to like invite something in for the most part. And I'd say like almost like kind of the way I would do it. And, I've been kind of practicing this more recently and everything, just being in certain areas and whatnot,
Right.
because, like, 10 years down the road, I would love to be able to, like, oh, this happened in 2025 and kind of like be able to remember, like, these moments and everything, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I think for me, the key would be to truly be present, like, in that moment, right? And, like, whatever that means to you, like, for me, that's like actually being able to just try to, like, be like, okay, if I'm working at camp or hey, I'm driving down, the highway and I see some like scenery, like take a deep breath. Like I know where I'm heading. I know what I'm doing in this moment, but I can take a deep breath and just like turn it off for a second. Take a look around, like feel your senses, like know what it sounds like in that moment, know what it looks like in that moment, and then kind of like almost like take a step back into like reality and like continue doing like what you're doing at that point. And like, I know Evan Longoria talks a lot about this, kind of coming up where, he takes a look at like the top of like
Yes.
the
Yeah, yeah,
foul
yeah.
pole and everything. Like that's kind of like his trigger or his switch to kind of get to present, right? And I think that's like the biggest part is almost like not necessarily trying to detach maybe yourself from something specifically, but being able to just kind of like take a step back, see what's going on around you, hear it, smell it, and kind of feel it, and then take a step back into reality and like go ahead and do that thing again.
Yeah, no, I think I like that a lot. And I think you talked about like Longoria's pre-performance routine, and I think that could be really helpful with kind of getting closer to what the law of detachment is all about. Because again, in that present moment, he's like, okay, I look up, I see the foul pole is there because it's always there. And then I can go into, okay, now this is my at bat. I can focus on the pitch I'm supposed to focus to. And again, it doesn't need to be the foul pole. It can be you stare at your bat, you stare at your glove, you stare at something you wrote underneath your hat, or even if it's a pre-pitch mantra to yourself when you're in the box or you're on the mound, like just thinking this pitch or execute, whatever it is, whatever mantra or word helps you focus to be in that very moment, that's great. I also think journaling can help a little bit. And when I'm talking about detaching journal wise, like I think a very key thing when you're detaching, like the law of detachment versus not caring, is when you detach yourself from those emotions to the results in the game, you're playing much more free. Where outside of the game, you can focus probably on those goals, maybe a little bit more when you're like writing down and journaling. So, kind of getting those thoughts out. And something that I have worked with and implemented with some athletes is when you're in your journal before your game, whatever you're going to perform, write your blueprint for success for that day. Whether you're a starter, like write out exactly what you want to accomplish that day. And then when it's game time, look over that, like right before the game, look over your journal, whatever you wrote in, whatever that blueprint is. And then all you're focusing on is executing. That's it, right? You already wrote your script for the day. Now you just got to follow it, right? Now go out there, just have fun. Ingrained in your brain, you know what you have to do, you know what you have to execute, but you're now not going out there thinking about each and every one of those, I guess, end results, if that makes sense, right? Like you're looking at it, okay, I need to execute, close the book, I'm clearing it, and then you're going to go out and you're going to actually execute that and focus on being in the moment. And I think the other thing that was a takeaway from both you and I's, I guess, journey after college when we're trying to pursue professional baseball is really trying to detach yourself from, and it's hard to do, but detaching yourself from what your goal actually is. Of like, you and I were so caught up with getting signed, who's getting signed here, like, is there an opportunity here, is there a spot open here, right? Like, trying to be fully present every day in what you're doing. It's like, okay, if I'm in the gym every day, I'm just going to get focused on like getting stronger today. Or if I'm throwing, I'm going to focus on throwing more strikes today. I'm going to focus on throwing a little bit harder today, whatever it is, right? Like, just focusing on those small increments of getting better rather than focusing on, if I do this today, I'm throwing a bullpen with the intent in mind of I'm going to get signed next week, right? Or I'm lifting today because I'm going to get signed at a certain point. It's all it is just challenging and competing with yourself to get better because you enjoy what you're doing and you're just trying to like get better every single day. So that's the other
Yeah.
kind of mindset I would try to implement, is just when you're looking at those goals or those aspirations, just make sure when you're in your training for that day, you're just focused on getting better that day and not actually, hey, I'm training so then next week I can get signed and do this and that.
100%.
That
And I
would be,
think
yeah.
that would have been something I would have revisited, doing
Yes.
it all over again. Not necessarily for like that specific aspect, but also from like the college aspect, right? Like,
Right.
I think if I had kind of like focused on like, okay, this is my goal. How do I get there? And then like, okay, now here's what I'm gonna focus on. And then once I do that, here's what I'm gonna focus on. Here's what I'm gonna focus on. And then like as you climb that rung, you get to like where your goal's at and everything.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think we've said it before on earlier episodes, like when we talked about goals versus your process, right? Like, goals are great to write down, right? But it's kind of like set it and then forget it, right? Like, you have this goal that you have, but looking at it every single day and being like, okay, if I look at this every day, I'm going to achieve it. That's not true. I think it's, if you set it and you understand very clearly what your intention is, you're able to execute what you want your process to look like, right? And you can make a blueprint from there. But again, like you said, whether it's in college and you're like, I want to be all conference, I want to be the player pitcher of the year, right? Like, have that goal in on a piece of paper in your mind, and then every day from there on out, the objective isn't to be the pitcher or player of the year. The objective is, I'm going to accomplish this process that's going to get me better every single day. And again, I think that's something I could have implemented way better as well. And I think that's something any young athlete can kind of take into their day-to-day progress. But yeah, I think that just about wraps it up for today for the Law of Detachment. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I hope you got some good feedback from this. And yeah, great. So tune in next week and we'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Peace.